Welcome back to episode 5 of my campaign playthrough of Stellar Horizons. Today we are beginning in the year 2070. The economics phase has already been completed, and we're going to move right on to the builds for each of the factions. Just to kind of give a recap, though, before we get to that point, you can kind of see out on the board where we are at. We've got a lot of stuff going on Mars for both North and South America. They each have a base there. Japan has started building crew vehicle 4s, and they're exploring everywhere around the solar system. Japan's got the clear tech lead right now, but South and North America do have bases and resources out there, so I think it's still anybody's game. I think Japan is in the lead, but I think it's anybody's game still at this point. So we'll move forward with that, and so I think the goals for each faction this decade, North America is clear. They want to go build a base out at the main belt, probably at Hygeia Palace. Japan is going to continue to do research. I'm not quite sure what they want to do yet. Their range, their CV range right now is only 1, so they can only go to Mars. They do have a space elevator already. They have that tech so that they can resupply their ships at Earth without having to go down to the surface at this point. So that will be convenient for them. So I don't know if they're going to build a base at Mars or if they're going to wait. They get tech so quickly they could probably get to CV range 3. They're only 1 biology and 1 physics tech away from getting CV range 3. They may not build anything at the moment at Mars and just wait to build something out at the main belt. So we'll see what they do. In South America, I'm not quite sure yet what to do with them. I think they also might like to build a base out at the main belt somewhere, but I'm not quite sure yet. We're going to see how that plays out. You're going to see here in the build phase, I don't have anything big planned for them yet. I think they're going to wait a turn or 2 and just see how things start to shake out. Initiative order this decade is South America, Japan, North America, and we will move over here to the builds. So we've got South America here. They are building an orbiter with a probe, and its goal is to go to Venus. They would like physics research primarily. This decade is what they're looking for, and they've got $28 billion left. If you'll recall from the event at the economics phase last decade, they do have damage on their supply stations, so they're going to pay 1 ore to repair the one in Earth orbit. They can do that. They're going to have to get an ore out to Mars to fix that one up, but that's what they're going to do there. Japan is buying a rover and a probe. They really enjoyed the success that they had at Io last decade with their rover. They're going to send this one off to Saturn and either go to, Mimas, Enceladus, Tethys, or Titan. Not sure yet. And they've got $25 billion. And then North America is spending most of their money right now. They're buying the CV4 Andromeda with an LV4 to launch it. They're buying 7 resources to put in it, mostly to take to Mars and then to use at the main belt later on as well. And they're also building a rover and a probe, and it's going to head out. They're not quite sure where to send it yet. They're going to send it to Jupiter initially, and depending on how well Japan is doing with their rover at Saturn, it'll either move on to Saturn or stay at Jupiter and try to get the Ganymede mission that North America has. North America is also going to spend an ore to fix up their base on Mars, and they're also spending a supply and a fuel to ready the crewed vehicle that they have out there. It's a CV2, so they can do that. The damaged large supply station still counts as a small supply station even when damaged. So they are able to do that. And so with that is all of the builds for the year. And I'll move on to mandatory movement, and we will continue. Mandatory moves have been completed. Worth noting now, everybody's engine check everybody's engine check is 3%, so CV3s no longer require engine checks to move. I will try to remember not to roll for those, but if they're being launched off of Earth, you'll still roll to get the reusable, to see if the rockets are reusable. So starting with North America, they are going to launch their rover and probe on top of the LV2 that they already have. we'll roll for that. They get a 56. That is reusable. And as I mentioned, it's going to head off to Jupiter at the moment. Their modifier right now is 0.7. Jupiter is 5 away. So looking at the chart, that is going to be 4 years. They did use an LV2, so that's going to go down to 3 years. So we'll just put this out here. And that'll go, like I said, they're either going to stop at Jupiter and go to one of the moons, probably Ganymede, or it's going to continue on to Saturn, depending on how Japan does. Next thing they're going to do is also launch their CV4, the Andromeda. It's going to carry all 7 of the resources that I bought for them, and it is going to go off to Mars. Here's the roll to see if the rocket gets reused. It does, so I will add that to their pile of resources here and try to pick up the entire stack of resources here on the CV4, and it's going to go out to Mars, and that will just take 1 year. All right, next up for North America, looking around, they have their CV2 out at the main belt, and it's going to head off to Vesta. CV2s do still require an engine check, but only a 1 is a failure, so 48, that's fine. I did pay for it, but I forgot to flip it over. The CV here at the Mars base that flips over, we do still have this buy token, and we're probably going to do that this turn. The CV2 is going to head off to the main belt. That needs, actually, you know what, it's just going to head to Mars away from the station. So it's a CV2, it does need an engine check. 88, that's fine. And then the CV3 on Mars right now is going to head over to, it's going to the base, and it's going to drop off the fuel. Mars is getting quite crowded over there. That is all of the movement for North America. Moving on to Japan, they're going to launch their rover and probe off to Saturn for now. I'm not sure which moon it's going to yet, but it is going to Saturn. They have an LV4. They're going to launch it on the LV4 because they don't really want to lose the LV4, but they no longer need it to launch their crew vehicle up off of Earth because they do have space elevator technology. So we're going to launch that. They get a 58. They keep it anyway. So to Saturn, that is 7 away. Their modifier is 0.6. So looking at the chart here, that's 4 years, but they just use an LV4, so they shave 3 off of that. They will be at Saturn in just 1 year. Next with Japan, they're moving their CV4 here over to Earth orbit. If I'm doing this wrong, please let me know in the comments. The way I read the space elevator tech is they can sit there and they'll be able to be resupplied from Earth next turn with $2 or $2 billion. And basically on Earth and Earth orbit is now practically the same location for them. I am recording these way in advance, so if you tell me I'm doing it wrong, it's probably too late for me to do anything about it. But let me know anyway, and I'll make a note of it. But that's what Japan is doing there. Looking around, I think that's all the movement Japan has. Yep. And then moving on now to South America, they've got their orbiter and probe that they would like to send to Venus. They do have an LV1 that they will use to send that. Got a 1. That is a failure. So they will draw an engineering chit for that, and they got a 5. Which is nice, but they would have rather had the orbiter and probe over at Venus. So they lost their LV1, they lost their orbiter, they lost their probe, and they might try that again next year. We will see. South America's got their 2 CV3s currently on Mars. I think they're both going to move to the Comet. They are interested in physics research, and that Comet has been pretty much untouched so far. CV3s do not need a roll to move, so they're just going to move over here. And that is all for South America. Next up is exploration. South America's got their 2 CV3s that we just moved. We will start with the left one there. They need a 3 plus a 4. They do have +2 as their modifier now, so they need a 9. This one does not have a lab. So they do get that. At 57 is okay. Their recall rate is currently 40%. So that is a physics marker for them. And that is a 1. And then the the other CV3 there is going to be automatic at 10. So we'll roll for recall. 10, so that is going to be recalled, but they do get their physics first, and it is a 2, and then a biology for the recall. That is also a 2. The rover on Ceres needing a 6. It does get the 6, and a 44 is okay, so they're pulling a biology marker, and that marker is a 1. That is currently all for South America. They do have their orbiter inbound to Neptune 1 year away, so we will do that next year. Moving on to Japan, they've got their space telescope, and they're going to point it at Europa. So if I recall, I think they needed a 10. That 2 plus the 3.5 rounds to 4 plus 4. Yep, they needed 10, so that is automatic. Rolling for malfunction. 38, no malfunction. Again, their rate right now is 13, and they get a 1 for that. The orbiter at the main belt, targeting the main belt, needing a 7. They get a 2 and a 92, that is a success, and they pull a 1. The orbiter at Saturn is going to look at Titan, needs a 14. Just 1, but that is not a malfunction. And they get a 2. They've tried for a while now to get that mission over there and have not been successful. Okay, that is all for Japan. Moving on to North America. They've got the CV2 sitting at Mars. It needs a 10, so it is automatic. And 34, their recall rate is 35, so that is a recall. So here is the exploration. It's just a 1. And the recall is another 1. The rover on Ceres needing a 6. Got a 10 and a 20. So failure and a malfunction. And they are pulling their engineering marker for the malfunction, and it is a 2. And finally, the Orion at Vesta needing a 9. They do get the exploration and no recall, and they pull a 2. All right, we don't have any production with CVs, so moving on to trading with bases. I think South America does want to do that buy at some point this decade, but I don't think they're in a hurry to do it at the moment, so they will wait on that. The North Americans, however, will go ahead and do theirs. They've got buying fuel as an option, 1 billion for 2. They've got 3 settlements, so they can buy 4 resources, and they will do that for $2 billion. And I haven't looked at it yet, but they might just turn around and pick it up and bring it over to the Chinese base and sell it there for more money. But that has been done, so I will remove that marker. And that is all of the base trading going on. Next up is building and expanding. Nothing yet. North America obviously does want to buy their spaceport at Mars, but they need 1 more ore to do it, and that ore is inbound. So no base expansion, and so with that, that is the end of the turn, 2070. Okay, on to the build phase. South America is going to buy an LV-1, an orbiter, and a probe, try to go back to Venus. They're also buying a fuel supply and ore to send off to Mars. The ore is going to repair their damaged supply station, and then the fuel and supply is going to resupply the CV3 that is reserved over there. Over here, Japan's just going to send off a flyby, just because why not? And then North America is going to buy a rover and send it out to probably the asteroid belt. Looking at the tech tree, they realized that they also would like quite a bit of engineering tech. Who doesn't? But that's what they're going to go for with that rover. Also, Japan had 2 billion of that money that I showed there to resupply their crewed vehicle at Earth. Mandatory moves have been completed. Moving on to North American movement. Going to launch that rover towards the asteroid belt on an LV-230, so that is reusable. It's just going to take 1 year based on, normally it would take 2 for their modifier, but 1 for the rocket size used. Let's see, where else do we have things to move? The CV-3 that is readied at the Mars base. That's going to take 4 fuel over to the Chinese base. CV-3s do not need to roll, so that'll just happen. The CV-4 in the flyby box is going to the Mars base and dropping off those resources. And the reserved CV-3 here, I think it's a CV-3, no, CV-2, that's going to go to the base, but it does need to roll an engine check. 7, okay. I saw the 7, I thought it was a 1 and got very nervous, but 7 is okay. That will move over to the base. One other thing I forgot to mention in the build phase, oh, it hasn't happened yet. Never mind. I did not forget to mention anything. Forget that. That is all for North American movement. Japan, they're going to launch their flyby, and they have an LV-1 that they'll use, and it's headed to Mars at the moment. They get a 90, so that is reusable, and it'll be at Mars in a year. They've also got their CV-4. I think it as well is going to move out to Mars, and that will also just be 1 year. Japan's going to move their rover that's at Saturn. I think it's going to go over to Mimas. Get an 80, so that's fine. They will move on over to these moons here. Actually, I think it'll move to Titan instead, so it'll go to Titan. And that is the only thing for them to move. Just verifying that. Yes, that's all for Japan. Okay, moving on to South America. South America is going to launch the 3 supplies, or 1 supply, 1 ore, 1 fuel, on an LV-2 off to Mars. That is a success, and that can be reused, so that is going out to Mars. They also have their orbiter and probe on an LV-1 that they'd like to launch to Venus. Got a 16, so that is a success, but they do not get to reuse that vehicle, but that's all right. And it will go out here. The reserved CV-3 on the Comet is going to move back to their base. They can't repair it at the moment, but they will be able to next year after they repair it. And then the CV-3 at the Comet will sit there. The rover is going to sit there on Ceres. And their orbiter has arrived at Neptune. It's going to attempt to move into orbit around Triton. They could move into orbit around Neptune and survey Triton from there, but they want as good of a shot as possible at surveying Triton. And they do want physics data, which Triton can supply a lot of. And if it lasts for more than that 7 exploration value there, they will be quite happy. So we're going to move into orbit. That is a 14. That is fine. So that has moved down to Triton. That's all for movement. So we'll go ahead and do that orbiter's exploration. They need an 8. They get a 3 and a 40. So that is fine. No malfunction. And they pull a 1 for their exploration. So they will try again next year. Honestly, they probably should have discarded that mission long ago, but politics markers have been in short supply for South America, so they haven't felt that it was worth it, but maybe it would have been worth it, I'm not sure. All right, moving on next to the CV-3 that is at the Comet. They need a 9. They get it with an 8, but that is a recall, so they pull a 1 for the exploration. And for the recall, they pull a 3. The rover at Ceres needs a 6. They get a 7 and a 26, so that is a malfunction. Their rate is 27, and that is not a successful exploration. So they pull a 2 for the malfunction, and that rover is gone. On to Japan. They're going to continue to target Europa with the telescope. They need a 10, so automatic, and they get the 73. And they pull a 1 for that exploration. Next up, looks like they have a few things inbound to Mars, so nothing there. Oh, well, that is a flyby. So they're going to go ahead and use the flyby and survey Mars. It's a 3 on the flyby, 3 at Mars. So that's 6 plus 2 for the world card is 8 for the spectrometer, plus their modifier of 4 moves it up to 12, but they are 1 year away, so they need an 11. 50 and a 4, so just 1 biology marker for Mars, and that is a 1. The orbiter at the main belt, targeting the main belt, needing a 7. We get a 9 and a 22, nothing happens there. The rover and, let's do the orbiter at Saturn first. That is going to target, actually let's do the rover first with the probe. The probe on Titan, 9 plus 8 is 17, plus their bonus of 4, so they are at 21. That's 2 guaranteed markers and another if they can roll a 1. It is off the table, or off the box, but it is a 4, so just 2 biology markers at Titan. See if they can get that mission completed. If I can pull 2 markers here. They have pulled a 1 and a 2, so still nothing there yet. The orbiter is going to target Mimas Enceladus Tethys, and they are going to need a 13. So that is a success, but just 1. And they pull a 2. This is the longest I think Japan's gone without pulling a depletion. And finally on to North America. Most of their stuff is en route or at bases. Looks like the only thing they have right now is their CV2 at Vesta. That's going to need a 9. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus the 2 for their bonus is a 9. They do get that, no recall. And the engineering marker they pull is a 2. Produce with CVs, nothing this turn. Moving on to trading with bases. The North Americans are going to trade away the 4 fuel over there. They are at free trade with China, so they can do 4 resources. And they're going to sell that for $8 billion. Building and expanding bases. Over here, North America's Martian base, they are going to upgrade their large supply station to a small spaceport that can service up to CV5s. That's going to cost them 3 ore and 3 fuel. I will make change there shortly for the ore there. But that's going to allow that CV4 that's currently at Mars to go on to the main belt. And so with that, that is the end of 2071. Moving on now to 2072. For building, before I pick out what needs to be built, I know that the South American base is going to repair their damage at Mars for that large supply station. And they're also going to spend a fuel and a supply to ready the CV3 that is currently sitting there. Go ahead and do that. I also know that the same thing is going to happen here at the North American base. They're going to spend their fuel and supply to ready the vehicle there. Go ahead and flip that over. And then I will take a look and see if there are any other purchases to be made this decade. Or not decade, this year. All right, the rest of the builds, South America is going to build another LV2 and also 2 supply and a fuel. They're going to send that off to Mars. And they're buying a rover that I think they'll send off to the Comet for physics data. They do have an LV2 for that as well. Over here, Japan's going to buy an orbiter and a probe and send it to Venus. And North America is going to send an orbiter. They're going to buy an orbiter and send it to Saturn. Mandatory moves have been completed. So we'll start with North America's movement. That orbiter is going to be sent to Saturn. They're going to use their LV4 that they've got. So here we go. They get a 35 that is reusable. And their modifier is 0.7 to Saturn. Saturn is 7 away. So that is going to be 5 years. And they used a rocket 3 sizes bigger. So it's going to go to the 2 box for Saturn. All right, North America's got a few things to move. They're going to leave the CV2 on Vesta. The rover at the main belt is going to move to Hygeia Palus, 30. The CV-3 currently on Phobos and the CV-2 currently on Mars are going to move to the main belt. So I do need to roll for the CV-2. That is fine. Both will be 1 year away. And the CV-4 currently at the Mars base is going to carry 6 supply, 1 ore, and it is also going to go to the main belt. On to Japan, they're going to move their CV-4 at Mars. They're going to move it out to the Comet. And the flyby will take care of during exploration. Is there any other movement for Japan? I do not think so. They do have some launches, or they have a launch of their orbiter. It's going to Venus. 61, that's fine. That was on an LV-1, by the way, so that is reused. And it'll be at Venus next year. On to South America. They're going to launch those supplies and fuel I'd mentioned on an LV-2 out to their Mars base. 6, that is a success, but the rocket is destroyed, or not recovered. And just going to put those resources here on the base. They're going to launch their rover on an LV-2 out to the Comet, well, to Mars. 64, that is recovered, and it will be 1 year out from Mars. The CV-3 currently at their base is going to move to somewhere. I think it's going to move to the Comet. And then the one that's at the Comet is going to move to the Mars base, so they're just going to switch spots. The orbiter and probe at Venus are going to move into orbit, and that's no problem. Okay, exploration with that probe at Venus needing a 15. Okay, that I really have a tough time getting that onto the box. Apparently it is a 9, so they just get the 1 physics marker, and that is a 2. Their CV-3 at the Comet needing a 10. 28, that is a recall. Their rate is 40, so the physics for the exploration is a 1, and the biology for the recall is a 3. They do also have their orbiter here at Triton. It is going to need an 8. Gets a 3 and a 35, so no malfunction. They do get their physics marker, and that marker is only a 1. On to Japan, the telescope continuing to target Europa, needing a 10, no malfunction, and their biology marker they pull is a 3. That is our first depletion of the decade. So let's go through that. That's going to move that down to a 6. Depleted that down to 6. We do not have a spectrometer, so just 1 world card. It is an icy, rocky moon, and we pulled cratered surface, so that's not very exciting, but it does apply, so we'll go ahead and put that there for now. And then after that, we have a life check, and on Europa, that is 14%. 33, nope. And a politics marker. The Hikawa at the Comet, that's going to need a 12. That is a recall and only 1 physics marker. So the physics that they get is a 2. And for the recall, that is another 2. The flyby at Mars will target the Comet, needing an 11. They get the 5 and a 94, so 1 physics marker for that, which is a 2. And we'll roll to see if it moves on. 56, no problem. That is off to the asteroid belt, and at their rate, it will take 1 year. The orbiter at the main belt targeting the main belt, needing a 7. 8, nothing. The rover on Titan, needing a 17. Just the 1. It's a biology marker, and that is a 2. The orbiter will also target Titan, needing a 14. So just the one again. And that is a 5. So they did complete that public mission over there. So we'll go through that. Okay, so they collect the public mission marker. They get a politics marker for that. We're currently in the 5th episode, which means we're in the 5th decade. So they can keep up to 5. They've only got 4 missions right now. The new public mission that was pulled is Ceres. That should not be too hard to accomplish at some point here for really anybody. And I'll go ahead and put the mission marker out there. I'll just add it to the collection of tokens on Ceres right now. I need to draw a world card for Titan. Titan is an icy, rocky, volcanic moon. No spectrometer, so just 1. And it is hydrogen for a gas giant, so that does not apply. Searching for life on Titan is a 9%. 16, nope, and a politics marker for the depletion. Okay, I thought that was with the rover, but that depletion at Titan was actually with that orbiter. I had forgotten about that. So that orbiter does have a spectrometer, so they do get to pull one more world card. So that will be what we do here. And they pull hydrogen. I can't remember if it was hydrogen or helium or what they picked last time. This could be the same token. I don't know. I shuffled them up and reached inside, but either way, we'll just leave it alone. There's 7 more depletions for Titan to try to get a world card there. And moving on to North America, they've got their rover on Hygeia Pallas. That is going to need a 9. They get the 9. They do get a 25. That is a malfunction. So a token for the depletion is a 2, and a token for the malfunction is a 2. And then the crew vehicle at Vesta needing a 9. They get the 9, no recall. That is another engineering marker. And it is another 2. So far, North America has pulled 6 2s for engineering and nothing else. That's all for them there. Everything else being inbound. They've got 5 ships inbound to various different places. So that is it there. We are not doing any trades with bases. Building and expanding bases. I don't think we're doing that. Let me take a look around. Nope, not this turn. And so that is the end of 2072. Moving on now to 2073, build phase. South America is spending a supply and a fuel at their Mars base to ready the crew vehicle they have there. And they're buying 2 supply and a fuel and sending it on their LV-2 to Mars. Japan is doing nothing yet. They do have $14 billion. I haven't figured out yet what to buy with them at this point. Hoping that becomes a little bit more obvious in a year or 2. I think worst case for them is they just kind of hold on to that for next turn when they're hoping to build bases, or they're hoping to build a base at the main belt. And then North America is going to build a rover and send it out to the Uranus system to get more engineering or physics, depending on what they need at the time it gets there. Movement for North America. They're going to launch that rover. They have an LV-4. They're going to use it, and they're going to hope they can recover it. So here we go. 43, that is recovered. The distance to Uranus is 9. Modifier of 0.7 makes that 6. 3 size is larger than needed, so it's going to go into the 3 box out there. So it shouldn't take too long to get there. Next up for... Oh, you know what? I forgot to do... Let me back up. I forgot to do mandatory movement. Had a lot of things to move this time around. So North America has quite a few. Oh, and I see one more mistake I made here. The South American ship should have flipped over. North America's got quite a few things out at the main belt. The CV-4, carrying all of the supplies, is going to head to Hygeia Pallas. That is where they are planning on building their base, but they're going to see through exploration. They're hoping to get one more round of exploration in at the other locations before having to make that decision. But they are going to go ahead and move the CV-4 out to Hygeia Pallas. The CV2 there on top is going to move to Ceres. That's fine. And then the CV3 underneath that is going to move to the main belt. The rover that has arrived at Jupiter, they do really want to finish that mission at Ganymede, but I think what they really want right now is biology and engineering research more than that mission. So I think it's going to move on to Saturn and choose really any of the moons there. So it's going to need an engine check to move on. And they get a 5. Their engine check is 3, so that is fine. And they're going to go to the 1 box over at Saturn. So that is all of the movement for North America. Moving on to Japan, they don't have anything to launch. Their LV-4 at the Comet is going to have to come back to Earth. So they'll go ahead and move that back here to the 1 box. And looking around, I think that is all of their movement. Nope, they've got their orbiter at Venus, so we'll roll for that. Get a 58, so that will move into orbit here. So both them and South America are going to try to start depleting Venus there. And I see that it does have a world card, but no depletion. I seem to recall one of the very first events was like the survey error that adds a world card to a world through an event. So that's why that is there. That is all of the movement for Japan. And now moving on to South America, they're going to launch their resources 2 supply and a fuel out to Mars on their LV-2. They get it, and they can reuse their spaceship, so that is, or their LV-2. So those resources have been transported out to Mars. Once again, their CV3s are basically just going to switch places here. The fresh one is going to head out to the Comet, and the reserved one back to the base. The rover there is also going to move to the Comet on a 50, no problem. So they're going to keep trying for research there. And I think that is all the movement now for South America. Exploration, they've got the orbiter at Venus. It's got a 2 plus the 6, so that's 8. They get the 1 and a 60, so that's fine. There is no high radiation here, so they don't have any increased malfunction rate. So that is a physics marker, and they pull a 2. Next up is their CV3 at the Comet, needing a 9. Get the 4, but a 16, so that is a recall. So 1 marker for the exploration is a 2, and for the recall is a 1. So it'd be nice for them if these CVs didn't just keep on flipping over every exploration out here. They are fortunate to have the base at Mars, but they have to keep sending out resources to resupply that. But the rover will need a 9. Get a 7 and a 30. Their malfunction rate is 27, so that is fine. And the physics they pull for that is a 1. They've got this orbiter out here at Triton. It will need an 8. They do get the 2 and no malfunction. So pulling a physics, and that is a 2. On to Japan, the probe at Venus needing a 19. We get a 7, so 2 physics pulls for that. And they get a 5 and a 1. So that is a depletion, and we'll go through that. Venus has been depleted to 5. It is a rocky volcanic planet, and we've pulled mixed ice for what feels like the 20th time, but that does not apply, so nothing there. A search for life of 1%. 30, no life, and a politics marker. The telescope pointing at Europa needing a 9 now. Get the 3 and a 47, so that is 1 biology, and that's a 3, so another depletion. Europa's been depleted down to a 5. It's an icy, rocky moon. And I really am shuffling in here when I'm reaching for for world cards, but we've got a mixed ice here. That does apply. That is much more interesting than Cratered Surface, so I think they're going to replace that. So if it is the same mixed ice card I keep pulling, at least now I won't keep pulling it. Search for Life there is 14%. 98, nowhere near, and another politics marker. Their crew vehicle is coming back to Earth. They do have their orbiter at the main belt, so they will go ahead and try for that at 7. They get the 4 and a 25, so their engineering pull is a 1. They'll have their flyby also there, and I think that's going to target Hygeia Palace because it gets the bonus for the spectrometer. So that's going to be a 6 plus the 2 is 8 plus 4, so a 12. And they get a 4, which is a malfunction, and a 2, which does give them 2 pulls for engineering. The first one is a 1. The second one is a 2. And for the malfunction, it's a 3. So that flyby is gone. The rover on Titan needing a 16. It's a 19. That is not a malfunction. A 1 does get them 2 biology markers. And those 2 are 2 1s. So not too much there this time. They do have their orbiter. It's going to target Mimus Enceladus Tethys, and it will need a 13. It does get the 13, no malfunction. 2 more biology markers for them. And they are a 2 and a 3, so they do get a depletion from that. That is also their mission, so they get a politics marker for completing the mission. We'll draw a world card. That orbiter does have a spectrometer, and those moons are icy, rocky moons with low gravity. And so the 2 that they just pulled are silicate rocks and water ice. The water ice is pretty interesting and benefits the search for life there, so they're going to go ahead and pick that one. And so on to the search for life. It is 9% at those moons, plus the 4 now, so they need a 13. They get a 30. And they draw another politics marker for the depletion. They also need to draw a new mission, because that was their mission. And that new mission they pulled is Eris. That's not in focus, but it's Eris. They are now at 5 completed missions, which is their limit for the current decade. They can continue to complete them, but they can only keep so many. And that completes Japan's very successful exploration phase. Now moving on to North America. We'll start with the CV3 sitting at the main belt. It needs a 4 plus a 1, so that's 5. 2 for the bonus on the world card, 7. And 2 more for their technology modifier, so they need a 9. They do not have a lab, so just 1 dice. They get a 1 and a 22. That is a success, but also a recall. So for the success, it is a 1. And for the recall, the recall here is a 5. The crewed vehicle on Ceres needs an 8. They do get the 8. They do not get a recall. Ceres is biology, so they pull a 1. And finally, the CV2 on Vesta needs a 9. And they do get that. That is a recall. The rate is 35. They rolled a 33. So engineering for that is a 5. They did get a depletion. We will go through that momentarily after I get the recall biology marker. And that is a 2. So they did get a depletion on Vesta, on Vesta over there. I'm going to draw 1 world card. It is Rocky. The card they pulled is Subterranean Water. That does not apply because it is not icy. Search for Life is 3% on Vesta. Get a 25, nope, and a politics marker. That is all of the exploration. Nobody is producing anything with CVs. No base trading yet. Building and expanding bases. I think I'm going to wait one more turn, maybe, with the North American base there at Hygeia Palace. They really like to see if they can get any more exploration there. They're really not in too big of a hurry. They just want to make sure they get it down before the end of the decade, along with a mining outpost. So they will... yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything at the moment. So we will move on from that right now. Nothing else is being expanded at any base that North or South America has, and that is the end of 2073. Build phase for 2074. South America is building 2 fuel, 1 supply, and going to launch that towards Mars. They're using 1 fuel, 1 supply at Mars right now to resupply the CV at the base. That sounds familiar. It seems like that's what we're doing every year here. And they have $2 billion left. Japan is going to rebuild their flyby for $4 billion and launch that off, and that is all that's being built. Mandatory movement has been completed. Movement now for North America. The CV at the main belt is going to move back to Mars. The CVs at the main belt are going to stay where they're at, the other CVs there. The rover at Saturn is going to move over to Mimas, Mimas, Tethys, Enceladus, yep. So we'll do an engine check for that. 100, that is fine. And then the orbiter will roll to move into Saturn orbit. It's a 7, that's high enough. That's all for North America. Japan's going to move their crewed vehicle back over here into orbit. They're going to launch their flyby on an LV-1. That is a success. And it's going to go out to Mars at the 1 box there. Any other movement for Japan? I do not think so. So we'll move on to South America. Once again, I forgot to flip this over. They did pay to resupply their CV3. And once again, the CV3s are just going to switch places. They also have their LV-2 they're going to launch with 2 fuel and a supply to Mars. They were hoping to send enough supplies out here to build a settlement. Not sure if that's going to happen. Everything has to keep getting resupplied here. That is a success, but they lost their launch vehicle. So that is almost certainly going to be not able to be... what am I trying to say? They're not going to be able to send out the materials they need to build the settlement. So we might have to go mining for it, but it doesn't look likely. And there's no other movement for South America. They're going to start exploration with Venus. They need a 7. They do get that. That is not a malfunction, so they get 1 physics chit, which is a 1. The crewed vehicle at the Comet needing a 10, rolling for recall, and that is a recall. So just continues there. Their physics marker they pull is a 2, and the biology for the recall is a 2. I will flip that over in just a moment. The rover is also going to go. It needs a 9. You get a 3 and a 61. That is a success. So 1 more physics marker for that. It is a 3. They do get a depletion there. A 4% chance for life, no life, and they do get their politics marker for the depletion. And lastly, their orbiter over here at Triton needs an 8. Gets it with a 6, no malfunction. They will continue to try to get this depletion here, but they will fail this time, but they do get 2. They will try again next year. Japan, orbiter at Venus needing a 12. Just the 1, no malfunction. And their physics marker here is a 1. Next up, telescope. I think that'll keep pointing at... I think they're going to point at Mimas Enceladus Tethys. So that's going to be a 9 that they need. They get a 6 and a 2, so that is a successful exploration, but they have also malfunctioned. The biology that they get for that is a 1, and the engineering they get for the malfunction is a 1. The flyby targeting Mars over there in the 1 box, it's going to need a 9. Actually, it's got a spectrometer, so it needs an 11. So they do get that. So 1 biology marker for them, and that is a 2. I think the orbiter at the main belt is going to target Ceres before North America gets to try. So that's going to be a 2 plus a 1 is 3, plus 1 for the spectrometer, but minus 1 because it's further, it's not at the main belt. That's a 3 plus 4, so 7. Get a 2 and a 23, so that is a success, and their biology marker they pull is a 5. So they have successfully gotten that last depletion before North America gets a chance. That does also grant them that mission. They will have to discard one of them, but they do get a victory point because they have to discard one, and they get a politics marker. So we'll go ahead and get that here. They are just going to discard the Ceres mission because it is tied for the lowest point value of any of the missions they've got. That is a spectrometer, so they are going to draw 2 world cards for Ceres. And let's see, Ceres is a icy dwarf planet. So the options here are subterranean water and hydrogen. Well, the hydrogen does not apply. Subterranean water is quite good for Ceres. That would be quite a bit of supply there. I think they're going to switch to it. Trying to think about this here. Yeah, so they have gone ahead and switched it to subterranean water. So they're going to search for life now. So that card does add 5% on top of Ceres 5%, so they need a 10. They get a 70, and they draw another politics marker for the depletion. We also need to pull a new public mission, which is right next door at Hygeia. On to the rover out at Titan, needing a 16. They did get that, so that is 2 more biologies. And those 2 are a 1 and a 2, so no depletion. And the orbiter is going to target Mimas Tethys Enceladus, and it's going to need a 12. They're playing a little aggressively here. They're trying to get research wherever it looks like the other factions are trying. They did get a 46, so no failure, but just 1 biology marker. And that is a 2. That is all for Japan. Moving on to North America, and I suppose this would be a situation, a pretty good situation where it does matter for initiative, so maybe North America wishes they would have spent a little bit of effort to try to go before Japan here, but they did not. So moving on now to exploration. They have the CV2 at Ceres, but it can't do anything now. I don't think... Oh, I need to put the mission marker here. The mission marker for the public mission is at Hygeia. I don't think that CV4 is going to risk exploring and then becoming unreserved, or becoming reserved, I should say. Actually, I think they will risk it. The worst case is they become reserved, and they have to go back to Mars, resupply, go back to Hygeia Palace, and they can still do that by 2078. So I think it's worth a shot. They are going to try. They need a 7 there. They get an 8 and a 95, so nothing happens. And then the CV2 at Vesta will explore there, needing an 8. They do get that, and no recall, so 1 engineering marker. And that marker is a 2. Out at Saturn now, the probe on the moons is going to go there. They need a 15. They get an 8, so just the 1. And there's only 2 markers left here. They pull a 1. And then finally, the orbiter is going to target Dione Rhea, and that's going to be a 7 that they need. They did get the 1, so that is a success, and their malfunction rate is 27, so no malfunction. The engineering marker they pull is a 2. There's no producing happening with any of the CVs. South America is going to go ahead and buy their 2 fuel there at their Earth base for 1 million. They only have 2 billion, I should say. They've only got 1. They now have 1 billion left. They only had 2 billion to begin with, so there wasn't much else that they could do with that. So they have bought 2 billion at the Earth base and added that to the stockpiles there. That's the only trading with bases. For building and expanding bases, I think North America is going to go ahead and build their base there so that they can get that CV4 doing other activities. Their normal cost to build a base there is 7. However, they have the tech to make it -1. So it'll be a 6. They have 6 supply with them. So they're going to go ahead and build that base. The 1 ore that the ship was carrying, I'm just going to put at the base right now. We're using Yosemite base here. And that'll be it for base construction and expansion. And so with that, that is the end of 2074. Build phase for 2075. South America is going to resupply their crewed vehicle at Mars with 1 supply, 1 fuel. Japan's going to rebuild their telescope and spend 2 more to resupply their CV4. And the way I understand it, I think the telescope, since they have a space elevator, can just appear in Earth orbit without having to be launched. Let me know if I'm wrong. And then North America is going to buy 2 fuel there for $2 billion. They're setting aside 2 ore and 2 supply that the incoming CV, I think it's a CV3, to the Mars base is going to carry back out to the main belt. Mandatory moves have been completed. Moves now for North America. They're going to launch their 2 fuel out to their new base at Hygeia Palace. 28, so they do get to reuse their LV2. Next up for North America, they're going to move their CV3 here, that's at the flyby, over to Mars base. They used this probe last time. Next, the CV2 on Ceres needs to move, and that's going to move over to Hygeia Palace. And the CV4 that's at Hygeia Palace is going to move over to Ceres to do some mining. The CV2 at Vesta is going to stay where it is at. No, it is not. It is also going to go to Hygeia Palace. This is for the CV2 currently at Ceres. That is fine. And the one currently at Vesta. That is fine. So they did a little bit of a shuffle there. They're not at the base. They are going to explore. And then the CV4 is going to mine over at Ceres. That is all the movement for North America. Next up for Japan. This should have been flipped over, and it's going to move over to Mars. They've got their flyby at Mars. That seems like it should not be there. Let me take a look at that. Also, while I'm looking at it, I continue to forget to flip that over. Never mind, that is right. They launched it last year to the 1 box at Mars, so that flyby is fine at Mars. Let's see, for Japan, nothing else is moving. And then for South America, they are, let's see, I think they're just going to continue the shuffle here. Let me take a look. Yeah, I think they're just going to move this back to the base, and this CV3 is going to go to the Comet. And we'll just keep doing that. And that is all for South America. Exploration now for South America. The orbiter at Venus needing a 7. 8 and 20, so failure and malfunction. So here is the engineering pull. It's a 3. The CV3 at the Comet needs an 8. They do get that, and that is not a recall. Their recall rate is 40, so the exploration there is a 3. They have depleted it. So I'll flip that over to a 2. I've given them a politics marker, and the life check is 4%. I got a 6. I said 4%. Is it 5? No, it's 4. 4%. So close, but no life there. The rover, though, will go, and it needs a 7. Okay, the one that fell out there is a 10, so that is a malfunction. But they did get the exploration, so the physics is a 2, no depletion, and the engineering for the malfunction is a 1. They're going to continue to try to get their mission here out at Triton. They're going to need an 8. They get a 1 and a 91, so that is good. And the physics they pull is a 2. Still no depletion, no mission. Japan's orbiter at Venus needs a 12. They do get 2 and no malfunction, so their 2 physics is, let's see here, 2 and a 3. So they did get a depletion. And I'm looking over here and I realize I forgot to launch their telescope, or at least put their telescope up into space. I will do that too. Let's see. Got a lot of moving parts going on now. I see that I'm forgetting things here and there. But all right, the depletion goes down to a 4. Going to draw a world card. It is a rocky volcanic planet. And they have pulled hydrogen. That is only for gas giants, so nothing there. The life check for Venus is 1%, and they need to get a politics marker. 33, no. I think their telescope will point all the way out at Sedna. It's a value of 8 for physics, so it's going to need a 10. That's automatic. So we'll roll for a failure. 43, no failure. The physics for that is a 3. So another depletion. That has been depleted down to a 7. Need to pull a world card. It's an icy minor planet. And that world card is, look, mixed ice. So they're going to apply that to Sedna. They're going to do a search for life. That is 5%. Get a 10, close, and then a politics marker. I feel like Japan is quite strong in this game, but I think the luck they have had this entire game, I know they have more like spaceships out there to do exploration with, but the number of times they get depletions just seems so much higher. The rate of depletions per exploration just seems so high this game. I don't know what's happening, but they are doing quite well. The flyby at Mars will target Mars, needing a 10. So that's a success. They pull the final biology marker, which is a 2. Engine check to move on. That is fine. The orbiter at the main belt is going to target Hygeia Pallas. It's automatic at a 10 because the world card is spectrometer. Rolling for failure. 13. That is a failure. But they do get 1 engineering marker before it goes away, which is a 2. And then a marker for the malfunction is a 1. So they tried to get a little funny there, trying to get that mission from North America again, but this time it did not pay off. The rover at Titan needs a 16. They did get the 6, no malfunction. I need to count up all the biology chips and put them back in the bowl. Okay, so the current count of biology tech is 11 for North America, 47 for Japan, and 14 for South America. So really, whatever Japan puts their mind to get research in, whether it be biology or physics or engineering, they just they do it. They do it quite well, and they're able to get a lot of it. So over there, on Titan, speaking of which, they have pulled a 5 and a 3. So only 1 depletion, even though both of them are above or equal to or greater than 3. But we will go through that. It's been reduced down to a 6. Titan is icy, rocky, volcanic. and we've pulled a S-class asteroid, which does not apply. It's a minimal gravity type, so nothing there. Life check is 9% on Titan. 19, no life. And then another politics marker, which currently the count of politics markers is 12 for Japan, 2 for South America, and 1 for North America. The orbiter at Saturn, that was the rover that just did Titan. The orbiter is going to target the moons there with the North American rover. So it needs a 14. Gets it, and that's 2 more biology markers. And it is a 2 and a 2, so no depletion this time. Sorry, that was out of focus there. So with that, that is the end of Japanese exploration for this year. Moving on now to North America. They've got their 2 CV2s out at Hygeia Palace. So we'll just do the top one there. 5, 6, 7 is the base, and then 9 with their tech, so they need a 9 on 2 dice. So the top one, no recall. The 9, they get 2 9s, but that is good enough. So an engineering marker for the first one. That is a 3. They did get a depletion, so that's good. We'll go through that here. That is a 2 currently, so I need to change that to a 1 first. They did just get the mission for Hygeia, so we will need to get a new mission. Draw a world card. I can't even tell what Hygeia Palace is at the moment. I think it's Rocky Asteroid. Let's see what we pull, if it even matters. We pull escarpments, so that will certainly apply. It's for rocky or icy, but they do not want to keep that. So that goes back into the bag. Life check there of 3%. No life, and then they get a politics marker for the depletion. The other CV2 will do the same, now needing an 8, which they did get, no recall. And they will draw an engineering marker, and that is a 1, so no depletion that time. The new mission that was drawn is Comet with a crew vehicle. So that's something that South America might get pretty soon. So we'll put that over here on the turn tracker. And then I've got this mission here. The North American rover on the moons over at Saturn needed an 11. 70, so they get 1 marker, no malfunction, that's biology, and it is a 2. The orbiter is going to target Dione. That needs to get a 7 for that. They get an 8, so nothing happens. That is all for North American exploration. The CV4, the Andromeda at Ceres, is going to try to collect supplies. The number there we need is a 7. They get a 9 and a 44, so no recall, but only 1 supply at the moment. All right, no trading with bases, no building or expanding bases. North America is going to be sending some supplies from Mars out to the asteroid belt to expand that base, hopefully in a turn or 2. But for the time being, that is the end of 2075, and we'll move on to 2076. Moving on to the build phase of 2076. South America is going to spend 1 fuel, 1 supply at their Mars base to resupply their crewed vehicle there. Japan is going to spend, sorry about the glare, they're going to buy the orbiter there for 3 billion. They've got 2 billion left. And also you can take a look and see what technology everybody's gotten so far. So South America's gotten quite a bit of physics. Japan's doing well, but not quite as well as previous decades. And then North America is going to spend 1 fuel, 1 supply at their Mars base to resupply their crewed vehicle there. And they've done pretty well on engineering this turn. Moving on now to movement. The 2 crewed vehicles on Hygeia Palace for North America are going to stay there. The CV3 here at Mars is going to move over to the asteroid belt. It will take 1 year to do that. Oh, almost forgot. I do need to do mandatory movement. So that flyby that you see at the asteroid belt for Japan, that needs to move. Let me do that. The CV4 at Ceres is going to stay there and continue to look for supplies. I think I already mentioned this, but the CV2s are going to stay there at Hygeia Palace. And then out here at Uranus, the North American rover is going to attempt to move over to Chariklo and get a little bit of physics research before the end of the decade. Roll to move, they get a 57, so they are moving out to Chariklo. Japan is going to launch the orbiter that they just bought on an LV-1. They get a 64 that is reusable, and it is going to go out to Mars. They're going to try to get some more biology research out here. I just realized I did not move the CV4. I'm missing a few things here. I apologize. So that should have moved in mandatory movement. And the orbiter is now 1 year away. Other movement for Japan. Let's see here. I think their CV4 is going to move to Mars as well. I don't know if it's going to explore or start mining for resources, but it's going to head here. That is all of the movement for Japan. And then South America, they've got their CV3 that's currently at the comet. It's going to stay, I think it's going to stay there. They would really like to get that mission. And the CV4 is going to head out there as well. They would really like to complete that. All right, and on to exploration. So we've got those crewed vehicles for South America. At the comet, let's start with the 3, the top one there. So 3 plus 2 is 5. They have plus 2, so they need a 7. They get a 10 and a 38. That is a recall and not a successful exploration. So unfortunate. They did roll they got a 2 for that, for the recall. And the other crewed vehicle over there needs an 8. They do have a lab, so they do get that, but they also get the recall. So not going their way there. The physics they pull is a 1, so no depletion. Continue to get no mission out there, but they do get a biology for the recall, and that is a 1. So pretty disappointing turn there at the comet. And then their orbiter over here at Triton, needing an 8. Got a 3, but a 2. That is a malfunction. The physics there is a 2. And an engineering for the malfunction. That is a 3. So this turn went as poorly as it possibly could have for South America. They're going to finish the decade with no missions yet again. They don't have any resources left to... they could bring... So right now Mars does have... Bring this over here. Mars does have 1 supply, and Earth has 2 fuel. So they could bring one of those supply back to Earth and then resupply there. They only have $1 billion left, and they don't have any... launch vehicles, so I don't know what they're going to do for the rest of the decade here. Okay, Japan, their orbiter at Venus is going to need an 11. They get the 1, they get a 15. That is not a failure. Their rate again is 13, and so they get 1 physics, and it is a 2. Next up is the telescope. I think they're going to point at... let's have them look at Sedna again. I believe they've been pointing out there before. It's a 7 right now for physics. So that's 3.5 to 4, 5, 6 for the telescope, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's automatic. Roll for malfunction, no malfunction. So they get a physics chit for that. And that is a 3. They do get that depletion. Sedna's been reduced to a 6. Going to draw for the world card. It is an icy minor planet. I draw helium-3, so that does not apply. They will search for life, needing a 5. Get an 87, no, and a politics marker. Alright, on to Mars. The CV4 there is going to need an 11. They've got 6 plus 3, and then plus 2 for their bonus. So they roll an 85 and a 1, so that is 2 biology and no malfunction. And those two are, you guessed it, another depletion, 5 and a 2. I really feel so bad right now for South America. Like, I know I'm playing all 3 of these, but it seems like every time it's time to pull markers for Japan, they're getting depletions and successes, and South America has just gotten nothing. So I don't know. Alright, I've depleted it down to a 2. I'm going to draw a world card. That world card is Frozen Methane. So that can apply to any but Venus. It's got an ore, 2 supply, and 6 fuel on it. I don't know that one is better than the other. For Japan there, I'm going to leave the subterranean water there. I think it depends on how aggressive Japan would want to play. It seems like that frozen methane might actually be worse for the other 2, North and South America. But I'm going to leave the subterranean water. I'm just going to leave that there. They do get a politics marker. I guess let me know in the comments what is typical. If Japan had pulled frozen methane there, which was worse for the other 2, North and South America. Not that subterranean water is bad for Japan there, but let me know what you would have done there, if you would have changed that out or not. Alright, we'll move on to, let's see, the orbiter is not there yet. We've got the flyby at the main belt. It's going to target the main belt, needing an 8. Get a 10 and a 49, so that is not a success. And then they need to roll to move on. Get a 98, so they will move on to Jupiter. The orbiter at Saturn, targeting Mimas Tethys Enceladus, needing, let's see, a 6 plus 3 is 9, minus 1 for the distance is 8, plus 2 for the world card is 10, plus 4 for their bonus is a 14. They get a 5, so just 1 biology, and that biology is a 2. And then the rover over there at Titan, they are going to need a 15. They get the 5 and a 28, so 2 more, let's see, Titan is biology. I'll pull 2 biology markers, and they got a 1 and a 2. So no depletion there. That is all for Japan exploration. Now moving on to North America, they've got their CV2s at Hygeia Palace, so we'll just go to the top one first. They're going to need an 8. They do get the 8. They get an 87, no recall. And that will give them a 1 for engineering. And then the other one there will do the same. They do get the exploration, no recall, so 1 more engineering marker here, and it is a 5. They get the depletion, the final one on Hygeia Palace. They will draw a world card, though I can't imagine they will change it out to whatever they pull. They get an S-class asteroid, which I think if I can read that from here, that's minimal gravity, but they're not going to change to that. They're going to keep the precious metals. They need to do a search for life at 3%. No life, and they get a politics marker. The rover out at the moons of Saturn, they're going to explore there, and they need an 11. They get a 67, no malfunction, but just 1 biology, and that is a 2. And then the orbiter there is going to target, they're going to target those moons as well. They need a 9. They do get that, but that is a malfunction. So biology for the exploration is a 1. And then an engineering for the malfunction is a 2. They've got their rover over here at Chariklo needing a 9. They do get that, no malfunction, so a physics marker for them, that is a 5. They get a depletion. So, let's see, Chariklo is currently at a 5. I'll move that down to a 4. Chariklo is an icy minor planet. That rover does have a prospector. So I will pull 2 world cards here, and we've gotten one that applies. We've got Chasms. Where's the camera? Here's the camera. Chasms and Hydrogen. So Hydrogen does not apply, but they will take Chasms. It's better than nothing. Need to do a check for life at 4%. Nope. And a politics marker. Moving on to resource production. The South Americans don't have anything able to do that. Japan is going to mine at Mars with their CV4, looking for supplies, and they need an 8. That's the number we're looking for. Get a 3 and a 33. A 33 is a recall. Go ahead and draw that. They get a 1 for the recall, but they do get 2 supply. I will add that here to their ship. North America over at Ceres is going to do the same for supplies. They need a 7. Get a 10 and a 56. That is no recall, and they do get 1 supply, even though they got the 10 there. For base expansion, North America is going to go ahead and build a small supply station at the base there at the main belt. That will allow their CV2s to actually go all the way out to the Jupiter system. They do have resources coming in there, both from that CV4 that's mining on Ceres, and they've got the other one coming in with the supply and ore from Mars. And so before the end of the decade, they're going to have a small mining station and a settlement there as well. So that is the goal. And so with that, that is the end of 2076. Moving on now to 2077. Looking around, I don't see anything that's going to be getting built this turn. Actually, no, I take that back. 1 second. No, okay, so after looking at it, I'm not going to buy anything right now. North America was considering sending ore out to their Ceres base, but I think the CV4 Andromeda on Ceres is going to move over to the main belt and mine for ore this turn, and then they will be able to bring that out in the next year, in 2078, and then deliver that, and then they can build everything they need. So at the moment, they're not building anything. Nobody's building anything. We'll move right into mandatory movement. That is all for mandatory movement. First up is going to be North America. They're going to move both of their CV2s on Hygeia Pallas. They're going to go into Jupiter, I think. Jupiter is not a radiation area until you get down to Europa and Io. And I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if Jupiter orbit itself counts as radiation. I'll look into that if it matters. I know it doesn't matter at the moment. I think it does matter. I think it is radiation, but regardless, they're going to go out to Ganymede and try to get that mission. Yeah, I'm looking at the rule book, and it's not incredibly clear to me what is considered a radiation area at Jupiter. The Jupiter orbit circle does not have the dashed lines that Mercury does, but the world card area, the world box, does say severe radiation. I don't know. I'm not sure which one is which. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But at the moment, it doesn't matter. We're not going to need to deal with that. So those CV2s are going to move off. We'll do the first one here. Engine check. That's fine, 44. And then the second one is a 5, pretty low, but all they needed was anything but a 1. So both of those are going to move off to Jupiter. Their modifier is a 0.7 right now. So 2 years away at 0.7, that's just 1 year. Other movement out here, the Andromeda is going to move out to the main belt, and the Venture is going to move to the base. I believe that is all of the movement for North America. Moving on to Japan, they have their orbiter at Mars. It's going to move into Mars orbit. That is a success. And then we will go ahead and also move their reserved CV4 back out to Earth. All right, so let's see, any other movement here for Japan? They have their flyby at Jupiter, but nothing to do with that right now. I think that is it. Moving on to South America, they're going to move their 2 CV3s that are currently on the Comet and that are reserved. And I think they are going to, let's see here, let me think about that. All right, I think what South America is going to do, they're going to bring one of their CV3s. I don't think it really matters for what I'm planning on doing, but they'll bring the other one, the one that cannot mine. They're going to move it over to Earth, and it's going to be 1 year away. The other one here is going to go to the Mars base. Next turn, the CV3 here at Earth is going to go to the base. They're going to collect the resources that are currently at the base. That's 1 ore and 2 fuel. And then in 2079, they should be able to move them back to the Mars base and be able to buy a mining station at Mars. They've really been trying to go the research station route, and I think they're going to continue to do that. But they would really like to get a few resources. So I think they'll probably spend a turn at Mars producing supply next turn, and then maybe get back to research. I'm looking at how much biology they currently have. They don't, I mean, of course they want biology tech. They want the techs in the biology tree, but there's nothing that they absolutely have to get this turn. So I think they're going to do that. They're going to forego the biology tech this turn. That is the goal for them. So moving on to exploration, just making sure nothing else needs to move that didn't already move. There's nothing for South America. Moving on to Japan, they've got their orbiter at Venus. That's going to need an 11. They do get the 11, so 2 physics markers, no malfunction, but they did only pull 2 1s here, so no depletion. Next up is the telescope, and they're going to point at, what do they want? They want biology. Let's point at Europa out there. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They need a 9. They do get that, no malfunction. The biology they pull for Europa is a 1. All right, moving on. They've got their orbiter at Mars. It's going to point at Mars. It does have a spectrometer, so it's 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4, so that is a 10. Just rolling for malfunction. 89, no malfunction. 1 biology marker, and that is a 1. The flyby at Jupiter is going to target Europa. Europa gives a +3 bonus to spectrometers. So here we're talking 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 4. That is a 15 that they need. They do get that, no malfunction. 2 more biology markers for Europa. And they get a 1 and a 2. I think this might be the longest dry spell with no depletions for Japan in a while here. That flyby is going to move on. And no problem, that'll go on to Saturn. The rover at Titan needing a 15. They get the 10, so just 1, and that is biology. And that biology is a 1. And then lastly, the orbiter there. The orbiter is going to target, I think they're going to target Dione and Rhea for the engineering. That's going to be an 8 plus the 4 for their bonus, so a 12. Just the 1, and 1 engineering marker is a 2. North America has their rover there at the moons of Saturn, needing an 11. Okay, that rolled away, but it is a 5, but it doesn't really matter. That is a malfunction, but they do get 1 biology marker before being removed. That biology marker is a 3. They did get a depletion. I'll go ahead and get the engineering to remove that. It's just a 1. I've depleted that down to a 5. We've got no mission there. We're drawing a world card. That world card is Impact Basins. That does apply, but they're not going to keep it. The water ice is better. The search for life here is 9% plus the 4, so 13. No life, and they get a politics marker. Out here at Chariklo, we've got the rover needing an 8 for North America. Get a 7 and a 41, so that is good. And that is a physics, so they get a 1. So that is all for North America. I'm going to move on to resource production. The CV4 at the main belt is looking for ore. The world card is a 3, and the bonus is a 3, so looking for a 6. They get a 9 and a 32. That is a recall. Their recall rate is 35, but they did pick up 1 ore, which was all they needed to do what they were hoping for. So that is 1 biology. And I will go over there, flip it over, and add the ore. On to base building and expansion. The North American base on the Hygeia Palace is going to build a small mining station. And so they're going to take 1 ore, 1 supply to do that. And they've got their small mining station. And then by the next turn, that CV4 that's flipped over at the main belt is going to go over there, deliver its supplies and ore, and they'll build a settlement there as well. And that concludes 2077. 2077. Moving on now to 2078. We are not buying anything. I am debating buying an orbiter here for North America to send to Venus to try to get a little bit of research there. They've got $4 and an LV2 and an LV4, but I feel like hanging on to that money either to send the main belt resources next year if they need them, or just holding on to the $4 and carrying it over to next decade when they might need it a little bit more. So I think they're not going to build the orbiter at the moment, but that is something I've been trying to figure out if they should do or not. Mandatory movement has been completed. North America, we'll start with them. The CV4 there at the main belt needs to move over to Hygeia Palace, and the CV3 that is there is going to move over to, I think it's going to go to the main belt and try to do that final exploration. So those 2 crewed vehicles have just switched places. The 2 CV2s up top, I think it's the Discovery and the Orion, they're both moving to Ganymede. They would like to complete that mission before the end of the decade. So for the first one there, 66, and for the second one, 72. So both are fine. Both are going to move to Ganymede. Again, they're allowed to be here right now because North America has a CV range of 2. Main belt is at distance of 3, Jupiter's at 5, so that difference is a 2. They have a small supply station, but it's only a small supply station, and small supply stations can only supply CV2s. So only those CV2s are allowed to be there right now. Nothing larger than that. The CV3 and 4 at the main belt are currently being supplied by the spaceport, the small spaceport back at Mars. That's all the movement for North America. Looking around for Japan, they're going to move their CV4 back into orbit. They have space elevators, so they're just going to take that 2 supply and put it on their resource card at Earth. It can move back to the CV4 if that's what they want to do later. Looking around, I think that's all for Japan. Yep. And then moving on to South America here, their CV3 here is moving to their base, and it is going to load up with all of the resources that currently exist at that base. That's 2 fuel and an ore. And then next turn, oh, I might have miscounted this. I guess they don't have enough turns to do it before the next decade. Okay, well, I did miscount that. So the goal was to get those resources out to Mars before the end of the decade. I think they're going to be 1 year late. So, yep. My bad on that. So that's about all that's going on right now for South America. That's the end of the movement. Moving on to exploration. South America has nothing. Japan has quite a bit. We'll start with the orbiter at Venus, again needing an 11. 10, 47, so just 1. There's not too many physics markers left here. So they did get a 2. Telescope will point at Europa, needing a 9. Get a 3. That is a 6, though. That is a malfunction. So they've gotten malfunctions several times now, I think, trying to target Europa. So that is a 1 for the exploration. And then a engineering shit for the failure, that's a 3. The orbiter at Mars needing a 10 for Mars. No failure, so a biology chit for them. That's a 3. That's a depletion of Mars. That's a spectrometer there, so 2 world cards. And let me try to get 2 world cards out of the bag here. They have gotten frozen methane again, so like we talked about last time with the frozen methane, and then volatile atmosphere, so that does not apply. And again, we're just going to keep the subterranean water. I don't know what's best for Japan here, but they will keep the existing subterranean water, and they do get a politics marker. There's no search for life here because they've already found it, so we don't do that. Moving on to, we got a few things out here at Saturn. We'll start with the rover on Titan, needing a 15. Just the 1, that's biology, and that is a 1. Next up is the orbiter. It's going to target Dione Rhea, and it's going to need a 12. They do get the 2 of them, so 2 engineering markers there. And that is a 2 and a 1. And lastly, I think the flyby will target the same thing, so that's going to need a 13. Just the 1. And actually they rolled a 13, so that is a malfunction. So just 1 engineering marker for the exploration. That's a 1, and then 1 for the malfunction, and that is a 1. Right now we've got 1 engineering and 2 physics markers left. Japan is clearly in the lead here this decade with research, but the other 2, North and South America, have gotten quite a bit of research on their own, so we will probably have to empty all 3 of these bowls of chits here before the end of the decade. Alright, so moving on to North America. The CV3 at the main belt is going to explore the main belt. They need a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They need a 9. Alright, 17. That is a recall, but that is a successful exploration. That's a 1 for the engineering, and then for biology for the recall is a 3. Moving on to Ganymede, we've got the Orion. It needs an 11 plus their bonus of 2, so they need a 13, and they do have a lab. They just get 1, so we'll pull for that, and that is not a recall. That's 72, and the 1 that they get is a 5. Alright, so they have depleted it, and they have completed that mission. So let's go through that. Ganymede is an icy, rocky moon. We do not have a spectrometer, so they pull hematite. It's pretty good, so I mean they'll go ahead and add that. There might be something better that comes along, but we'll take that for now. Life check there is a 5%. No life. So they get a politics marker for the depletion. They get 1 for completing their mission. So they're going to add that mission to their mission pile. They now have 5 of them, and we are in the 5th decade. So they are at their current limit, but like Japan, they could keep getting them if they're able to, and just get victory points for them. So we do need to draw a new mission for them. And that mission is Neptune. Quite a ways out there. Alright, and then the other CV2 there, the Discovery, needs a 12. It does not get the 2, so it just gets 1, and that 1 is a 1. It does have a recall, 35. That is exactly North America's recall number, so they will pull a biology for that, and that is a 1, so I will go flip that over. Okay, I've gone ahead and added up all of the physics and engineering markers for everybody because we're out of both of them. We're going to have to restock them. So right now North America's got 12 physics and 36 engineering. Japan's got 28 physics, 22 engineering, and South America has 32 physics, 14 engineering. Alright, so out here at Chariklo, the rover, North American rover, needing an 8. And they get it with a 6 and no malfunction. So we've refilled our physics markers here, and they've gotten a 2. And that is all of the exploration for the turn. Looking around at base building, I think North America is going to build a settlement at their Hygeia Palace base. So that's going to cost 2 supply, 2 ore, and a fuel. That does mean that we won't be able to have anything get unreserved, but I think getting a settlement there will be more important. There's only 1 year left in the decade. And that is it for 2078. Moving on to 2079. So I realized what I should have done. I should have not spent that fuel. Should have resupplied that North American crewed vessel there. Should have bought fuel on Earth, launched it at the base, and then built the settlement at the end of 2079. But I've already gone too far here, I think, for that. So I'll leave it at that and take that as a lesson learned going forward. So also ignore everything I just said about launching the fuel out there and resupplying that vehicle, because the supply station is not large enough to resupply that vehicle anyway. They're going to have to go back to Mars regardless. So, yep, does not matter. Having said all of that, I think North America is going to buy 2 fuel this turn and launch it out there regardless, just to have some out there at that base. There were no mandatory moves to do this year, so we'll move right into movement for North America. Their reserved CV2 at Ganymede is going to come back to the main belt, and that's fine. The other 2 crewed vehicles at the main belt area are going to head. Actually, only the Andromeda, which is, I have to look, I think it's the one that's currently at Hygeia Palace. I'll take a look. That's going to move back to Mars. The other one is going to head to the base at Hygeia Palace, and it's going to be in position to bring some ore back to the Mars base after we produce. Okay, so those have all been arranged as necessary. So to recap here, we've got the Andromeda, the CV4 coming back to Mars. It'll be able to resupply next turn, or in 2 turns. It'll go back next turn and then resupply on the turn after. The CV3 that's sitting at Hygeia Palace will sit there 1 more year. It's going to bring ore over to Mars a year later, and then that other one is a CV2 that's at the main belt 1 box, and it's going to resupply at Hygeia Palace when it gets there as well. So, okay, with all of that, that is all for North America. Let's see. I see that I did forget to do something. So I'm going to have spent the 2 billion. Actually, they have 1 supply right now. I'm talking about Japan. They're going to spend 1 of the 2 supply they brought back on their CV4, as well as 1 of their $2 billion. And they were going to have resupplied the Hikawa here. So it is going to move back to Mars, and it'll go to the 1 box. But that is all of the movement. The more and more I see, the more and more that starts happening here, the more and more I start forgetting little things. So I apologize for that. And then South America is also going to move to Mars. It's going to go to the 1 box over here, and it's bringing those resources out to their Mars base. So everybody's got some crewed vehicles coming into Mars for the next year, but I think that is all of the movement. So we'll move on to exploration. South America does not currently have any. Japan at Venus, they need an 11. Getting ahead of myself again. Before that happens, North American movement, they are launching that 2 fuel that I had talked about on an LV2 out to the main belt. That is a success, barely. Their engine check rate is 3. That was a 4, so that does get out there, but they do lose their LV2. All right, now moving on to that orbiter at Venus. 55 and a 10, so just 1 physics marker, and that physics marker is a 2. The orbiter at Mars, targeting Mars, needing a 9. They do get that, no malfunction, and 1 biology marker, and that is a 3. So that is the final depletion for Mars. Drawing 2 world cards for that. They have a spectrometer and So they've got C-class asteroid and silicate rocks. So if they really wanted to make it a little bit more difficult for North and South America, they would probably choose to put the silicate rocks there, but I'm just going to decline to do that. So they will just choose to keep subterranean water there. But they do get a politics marker for the depletion, and that is it for that orbiter. The CV4 can't do anything, it's not at Mars yet. That just leaves us with the 2 out at Saturn. So the orbiter at Saturn is going to target Dione Rhea, needing a 12. Just the 1, and that's engineering, and that engineering is a 1. And the rover needing a 15. Nope, just 1, and that is a biology, which is a 5, big one. So that's a depletion on Titan. Titan is icy, rocky, volcanic. So let's see what we can pull here. And it is helium-3, about one of the only ones that does not apply. So nothing there. They're going to do a search for life. Titan, that is 9%. Nope. And one more politics marker. And finally, North America has their CV2 at Ganymede. That's going to need a 12. They do not get the 12, but they still do pull 1. They do not have a recall. So that is physics, and that physics is a 1. And lastly, here at Chariklo, we've got an 8 that we need. They did get the 8 and a 99, so that's fine. And they get a 2. That is all of the exploration. That is, there is no production happening. There's no base trading. There's no base expanding or building. That is the end of the decade. So we'll move on now to the 2080 economics phase. First up are politics markers. North America and Japan each will draw 2, and South America will draw 4 for their policy. So that puts North America at 10, Japan is at 19, and South America is at 6. Next we'll roll for an event, and we get a 67. 67 is survey error, so we'll roll percentiles to select a world and draw a world card. So here we go. A 28, that is Phobos Deimos, so we'll draw a world card there. And I get volcanoes. That would be something fun to get out on Titan, but that does not apply to Phobos Deimos, so that is the end of that event. Next up is initiative. Again, we did see some reasons why people might want to be further up on the initiative chain this decade, but I don't think anybody's going to spend any politics markers to do it. So North America gets a 24, Japan gets a 100, and South America gets a 66. So it'll be Japan, South America, North America. So just flipping around Japan and South America from the current order. All right, for diplomacy, we'll see if anybody has their relations go back to neutral. 6, that is Japan again, but that's what happened to them last time, so they don't move anywhere additional. So in reverse initiative order, North America is going to choose to spend 1 politics marker to try to increase their relations with South America. Okay, that didn't even hit the box, but it is a 1, so they did move their relations up. So that moves it for both of them. They are now in an alliance. Next up is Japan. They're going to spend 3, and they're going to spend both of them with China. So here's the first attempt, 2, that is a success, and the second is a 6, that is a success. So they move up 2 with China up to collaboration. Moving on now to production, I will add up money just as I've done in the past, and we will see how much each faction gets. It is 2080, so we're still in the second row of the production for one more decade here. North America collects $45, or 45 billion. Japan collects 36 billion, and South America gets 34. I'm also going through and adding in tech production for each faction. Everybody has existing life, so they get 3 extra biology, 2 extra physics. And I will go ahead and do South America's bases as well. They've got small research stations at all 3 of their bases. So they're going to collect 3 physics at their Earth base. They're going to collect at their near-Earth asteroids. They're going to collect 6 engineering, and then they're going to get 8 biology out at Mars. All right, moving on to production of resources at bases for North America. Their Mars base, it collects 6 plus 2 at Mars, so 8 supply. They do have a large mining station, so that's an extra one, goes to 9, and they have 3 settlements, so that goes to 10. They get 10 supply there. And then at Hygeia Palace, that is 6 plus 2 is 8 for ore, and they don't have any extra bonuses there, so they will get 8 ore. Next up are trade routes. North America and Japan both have the ability to move 5 resources around, and North America is going to do that. Let me figure out what they're going to do. I think they'll probably just send 5 of these supplies from Mars out to Ceres. And by Ceres, I mean Hygeia Palace. All right, time to see if we get a non-player faction base. 37, that seems likely. Let's see out here. 37 is at Hygeia Palace. And we do get those in 2070, so there's going to be another base out there. So I'm shuffling through the bag of non-player faction bases I have here. And I have pulled an Asian base, so we will put that out here on Hygeia Palace. Next up is the asteroid, a 20. That should be an asteroid somewhere. 20 is Mars, so that's definitely going to be an asteroid that we add. So asteroids might be another thing to consider caring about initiative a little bit more for, because that does award quite a bit of resources and a victory point. And lastly, a pirate. 88, almost certainly not. That is out of Neptune, which is 2130. On to trade markers. Got a few of them to add here. First up will be the one for the South American base at Earth. It is a supply token. On a 6 or higher, it'll be on the buy side. Nope, so it is a sell token. Moving on to the North American base at Mars. And they get another supply token. And that is going to be on the sell side. That is very convenient. They probably will take advantage of that. The Chinese base on Phobos. That's going to get a ore marker. And it's a 1, so it is also a sell. There's a lot of resource selling going on, it looks like. The North American base at Hygeia Palace does have a settlement, so it will get a trade marker. And it's going to get an ore. And it is another sell. So I will put that out there momentarily. And then lastly, the base at Asia is going to get another ore marker. And it's going to be that's a buy. So those are some awfully convenient markers out there for North America. They will probably look to take advantage of at least several of those. Moving on now to developing technologies, I will add up everybody's points, go through in initiative order, seeing what everybody wants, and report back with what we've got. Here's the technology everybody's got. You can see everybody got a good amount of everything, and then Japan got all of the biology there with 96. All right, so here's the tech that everybody ended up getting. South America actually had quite a bit of tech points here, so they caught up in most areas. They are now at base construction cost -2. Japan really improved their biology technology here as well. Pretty low recall rate, and both them and North America got the CV exploration of +3. Down here in physics, Japan went pretty far here as well. They have CV range 3, which means they could do a lot with the asteroid belt without having to go to Mars. And then out here in engineering, Japan caught up a bit on the bottom row there. Both them and North America can now build, well, Japan already could, but now North America can build CV5s. All right, and on to settlement growth. The Mars base here, they get an 8, so no growth. The main belt gets a 4, so no growth there either. And then for South America, their Earth base gets a 2, no growth. And then finally for policies, North America picked the military policy, both for the bonus to the initiative roll, and they're not very happy with what Japan was doing with surveying all of the things that they needed, and they see that that could be, with their technological advantage, could be a threat to them winning the game. So they have decided to start going down the military policy route. South America then chose extra production down here, and Japan, in response to North America, also chose to go down the military policy. So we'll see if that goes anywhere, but they're both looking towards the future here and looking at victory conditions and what they need to do to win. So with that, that is the end of the 5th episode. Thank you for watching, and looking forward to the next one.